Dear Heavenly Father, please help me to share what it is that you want me to share in this video. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So I had this vision on Sabbath, once again in the middle of worship. I actually had a couple of visions, but the Lord wanted me to share this one. And I did not want to share it because to me it was just a really quick vision and I didn't want to share it. And he was telling me to share it. And I was like, okay, God, if I share that vision, what would I say with it? Because there was no words. And he reminded me of a dream that I had years ago. Now, I must have had this dream back about 4 years ago. And I never shared it again because it was personal. So once again, I still didn't want to share it because it was personal. And it actually touches on something that I don't like to talk about. So I didn't want to share it. And then a friend of mine is going through the same type of things that I went through. And she was texting me about it and how she's struggling and crying and everything. And as I was comforting her, it hit me. I said, wait a minute, reminds me of that dream I had. And I said, this is confirmation. The Lord has given me confirmation again to share that vision. So I said, okay, I got to share this vision. And I told her, I said, I plan to release it today. So anyway, I'm going to start with the vision that I had this past Sabbath. I was in worship and I had a vision where I saw this huge constellation of stars, just a massive constellation of stars. And what it was a galaxy. And a galaxy, I just looked up the definition, is a system of millions or billions of stars together with gas and dust held together by gravitational attraction. So there was this a massive galaxy, and Jesus Christ was standing in outer space next to this galaxy. And let me explain the massiveness of Jesus Christ. He was, I don't know if you all just heard my stomach growling, but anyway, Jesus Christ's his face alone was about the size of this galaxy. But Jesus was so tall that he was even taller than this galaxy that was next to him. From my viewpoint, the galaxy was on my right side and then Jesus would be on my left side from my viewpoint. And he was just massive giant. I mean, just massive giant. And there was all these other stars in back of him. And it was just this massive universe. I mean, just massive. And like I said, a galaxy alone is millions and billions of stars. And he was just standing there, standing up in his regular white robe, beautiful smile on his face, those beautiful white teeth, and just smiling at me. And in this vision, I knew of the massiveness of his power. Once again, I've said that God is teaching me, I said this in a previous video, about his light and what this means. And I'm telling you, this is so amazing. And I was reading scriptures and I felt God was telling me to read certain scriptures that had to do with his light. And it was about him. He's been teaching me to let his light into those places in my life that I've been like, I haven't been now. I give God the glory. I don't feel depressed at all. And I thank and praise God for delivering me from that, because it is a spirit of depression. It is not a spirit from God. But I was really depressed, and God was telling me to let his light in, let his light into those areas, and, you know, cast my cares on him. And it's just so much that he's taught me. I cannot go through it right now, because like I said, I didn't even write down all the notes. And then I watched a video, and it was just like, it just brought everything home that somebody did. Alpha and Omega Productions, I believe it's called. I wanted to share the video, but I didn't get a response back. It was also about God's light, and that's what he just keeps teaching me. So this vision was just showing me again the massiveness of his power, because that's what the light has to do with, the massiveness of God's power, and how we can trust him with everything in our lives, everything that bothers us, every problem. And it's going to get into my dream, what I'm saying right now, just everything that's been done to us, everything like that. We can trust the Lord. Let his light in. Let his light so shine into those areas. So I had a dream. What he told me to do is share this dream, because it also has to do with this vision. And this dream was back when I had been, so I'm just going to share a little bit of my history. I was working on this job. I had only been on this job for, I want to say it was 2 weeks. It wasn't that long. I think it was 2 weeks. And I overheard my boss, and I don't like sharing personal things, but I have to say this. I overheard him talking about firing me. And I'm like, I just came out of training. What am I doing wrong? So I overheard him talking to his boss, and his boss was saying, now we got to wait 6 months to fire her. It's all your fault. I told you to wait. I told you to wait to hire her. You hired her so fast. And I knew I was the only one that had been hired. I was the only, not even the only female. I was the only one that had been hired in some time. So I'm like, they talking about me. And I'm just sitting here listening to this. And they was talking about how the company that I worked at before had, wow, I'm really sharing personal stuff. I don't like to talk about this stuff. But anyway, they was saying that the company that I worked for before was not going to do business with them until they got rid of me. I overheard them saying this. So I confronted my boss about this, because I had just started there. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I confronted him. He was so nervous. And he was like, oh, we wasn't talking about you. And I said, well, I'm the only one that was hired. And he was like, well, we just wasn't talking about you. So then I went to my coworkers. I had 2 coworkers. And I asked them, like, am I doing a bad job? What am I doing wrong? And it was like, you just started. You're not doing anything wrong. I heard them saying they got to wait 6 months to fire me, right? So this time had went on. And I was really concerned, because my spirit was telling me they are trying to fire you. And I'm trying to work hard. The job worked on getting contracts and things like that. I'm trying to get as many contracts I can. I'm trying to work really hard and study really hard and do a good job. My boss literally came into my office and gave me a very technical, I don't know what you want to call it, questionnaire, interview, whatever. This is after I was hired. And I passed it with flying colors. And he was like, well, you did very well. And so anyway, it just felt like they was trying anything they could to find anything to get rid of me. And so I'm feeling in my spirit, they really are talking about me, And that's, what I felt God was telling me. And I'm beginning to really worry about it, because I'm a single mom. And I was like, I just started this job. How's that going to look on my resume? And so I was really, really worried about it. And Jesus came to me. And I might have touched on this in a video. Now I'm talking about, I'm not even getting into the dream yet, you guys. Bear with me. Now I'm talking about when he visited me. I was laying in the bed asleep. But when he came to me, it woke me up. And he came to me face to face. I looked right in his face. It's not the first time he's came to me like that. And he said to me face to face, right to my face. He was like flying over me and right to my face. He said, it's real. It's really happening. I'll never forget these words, because they was devastating to me. He said, it's real. It's really happening, but I will take care of you. Those was his exact words. And I'm fighting back tears as I think about it, because it was so devastating to me that Jesus was confirming, yes, they are trying to fire me. And even with the way he said it, he didn't actually say like they are going to fire you. He said it's real, it's really happening, but I will take care of you. So I was like, man, does he mean they really firing me, And I was just so devastated. But I was happy he said he was going to take care of me. But in my mind, it took a long time for me to really get happy about him saying that part, because all I kept thinking is they really trying to fire me. So I'm still trying to work hard, and I'm praying and praying and praying against it. Lord, please, please, please. It's not going to look good. I just started working here. And so sure enough, 6 months passed. And I mean, it was like to the day. I'm in my office, and I was talking to a coworker, because I had told one of my coworkers about what happened. And she said, look, she was like, 6 months I hear. You're still here. Everything is fine. So stop worrying. And I was listening to her like, I don't know, they said 6 months, so it was like 6 months to the day. And I talked to her as soon as I had came into work. I came into my office, and then I went to talk to her for like 5-10 minutes. So I left her office. I went back to my office, and as soon as I got in my office, my manager, my boss, he was like, I come here, we need to talk to you. And sure enough, he led me to some conference room. The head of HR was there, and oh man, all my insights just dropped. Like everything in the inside of me just dropped. And I knew these people are about to fire me. It was devastating. And I cried. I mean, I sat there and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I could not hold back the tears. And I'm a type of person who usually never cries in front of someone. Like, I'm one of those people. And for me, I could not control my tears. I kept trying to stop crying, and the tears just flowed and flowed and flowed and flowed. I mean, my shirt was wet. Like, my shirt was wet from my tears. That's how much I was crying. And I was just devastated. And they told me that I wasn't being fired for anything to do with my performance. They said my performance was really good, but they laid me off. And they said I was just being laid off because I had low seniority. They had to lay people off because they had to make budget cuts. That was the excuse that they gave me, but I knew that was bogus. So anyway, because I overheard them and what they was really saying, because the company I worked for before, I don't want to say too much. Let me just put it this way. They didn't want nobody hiring me. Let me just put it that way. And I know that for a fact. I'm not going to go into detail on that right now. So that's really what it was. And so after that happened to me, of course, I desperately looked for a job. I desperately looked for a job for years. And then the Lord was giving me dreams that I was blacklisted. And so I didn't want to, and that's why I'm going to go into one of these dreams that I had. I've had so many. But he wanted me to share this one that I had. I'm going to get into it. But anyway, I didn't want to believe that because it was so hurtful to me. I was a single mom. I had practically no income. It was really bad. It was really bad. My first husband was only giving me like $90 a month. And now he gives me nothing, of course, because my daughter is grown. And then my second husband was giving me $165 a month. But he actually took me to court and fought that down to $66 a month. So I had like no income except for 6 months I had unemployment. I think it was just 6 months. And so I wasn't getting any income from anywhere. So I was really just devastated, like desperately looking for a job. The recruiters would interview me, and I would pass the interviews and everything. They would be really excited about me. Oh, we're going to get you a job and blah, blah, blah. And then they would just disappear. So finally it got to the point where I started telling them that I think, I've been blacklisted and things like that. And I finally had 2 recruiters confirm that to me and tell me, what they was experiencing with me. And then I had somebody else confirming to me that I'm not going to discuss right now. So anyway, this is one of the dreams that I had. So in this dream, I was at my parents' house for some reason, and these are the type of dreams you never forget. And over my parents' house, I worked there for some reason. Like, I worked there, but I didn't work for my family. I worked for another relative of mine that I'm not going to say who it was. And the dream said that this guy was a Mason. Now, when I had this dream, I had not talked to this guy, this particular man, in several years. I think it had been 4 years or more since I had talked to him. I never knew he was a Mason. I never knew anything about the Masons until I went through this whole experience. That's when God started telling me and teaching me about these witchcraft organizations and things that they do, because I kept trying to figure out how all these people connected. How is this connected to my job? Like all this. And he started really teaching me this stuff. So the dream said that this guy was a Mason. I did not know that. And in the dream, I worked for him. And then I was doing a really hard job. Like, I was doing all the work in the dream. I was working real hard, and it showed the people around me was not working hard at all. They wasn't doing anything, and I was doing my work and their work, and I was trying to work real hard. And he came in to pay everybody, and he paid them a lot of money. It was cash, and a lot of cash. And for me, he literally threw pennies at the floor. He threw pennies at me, and I'm scrambling to pick up all these pennies. And I knew at that point in the dream that the Lord was telling me that they was paying me pennies, which was interesting to me because I thought I was making, good money, but he said I was making pennies. But anyway, so then he told me I wasn't doing a good job, even though I was working real hard. And he told me that I was fired. He was hollering and screaming at me and told me I was fired. And I was devastated. It was the same feelings that I had before. Like, I'm a single mom. What do you mean I'm fired? I got to take care of my kids, And so then the scene in the dream switched. And I'm going to get to how it ties to the vision. Just bear with me. So the scene in the dream switched, and then went to another scene where I saw the HR person, the head of HR who terminated me. And I saw him talking to a female recruiter. Now, in real life, I had just got through working with a female recruiter. And this lady was telling him that I was a single mom, because I got to the point when I would work with the recruiters, I was like telling them my situation. I'm a single mom. It went beyond professional. It was like, I really need a job. I got to take care of my kids. And so she was telling him that, like, because she was trying to get me a job and she needed his reference or something. She needed something from the company, which I'm assuming is a reference, because that's how recruiters work. So, but in the dream though, he wanted her to get somebody else for the job. Like, he didn't want her to get me for the job that she wanted me for. And he was telling her, no, I don't want to work with her. And she was like, she's a single mom. I mean, not work with her. He was like, don't help her. And she was like, she's a single mom. What is she going to do? She needs a job to take care of her kids and everything. And she was trying to plead for me. And then he was like, look, if you get somebody else for the job that you're looking for, somebody to fill that job, he said, I will pay you. He was like, I will pay you double commission. I will give you double commission to get somebody else. He was like, don't hire her. And then I started screaming. She was laughing. Let me finish. She was laughing because she was going to get paid double, and she was all smiley, like, okay. And so she was like, well, forget me, And so I'm in the dream as they're talking. I'm like a spirit in the dream hovering over them, and God was literally showing me this conversation. And in this dream, it felt like this was a real conversation that took place, because God has done that with me. And I have not discussed this too much, but God has literally showed me, because it's another video. I mean, I'll have to make another video if God leads me to. But he has literally showed me throughout this process of how I was blacklisted. He has literally came to me in dreams and took me back in time and showed me conversations that happened, and I was literally there. And I'm seeing this thing as it fold out. One dream, I kid you not, he showed me myself in the office crying my eyes out and bawling my eyes out on this one, the company before that didn't want me to get any work. And in the next room, they were laughing and giggling about how they was harassing me, and they was making plans of what they was going to do next. But like I said, that's another video, because I can really go into that. But I mean, it was bad. One thing I will say, I had a boss who would put his nose to my nose and tell me I should just kill myself. But I'm going to leave that at that. I'm not going to go into that right now. It's already bad enough talking about these personal things, and God only knows what all I'm going to edit out of this video. But anyway, so he was showing me this conversation. It felt like it was something that really happened. So I started screaming. I was like, how could you do this to me? And I'm balling up my fist like, I'm a single mom. How could you do this to me? How evil are you? What is wrong with you? And I'm screaming and screaming and screaming. I was so angry. And then the scene switched again. And it was this white room. It was completely white. And Jesus was standing in this room. And I'm screaming, I'm still screaming, and I'm seeing Jesus, but I'm so mad and angry because all of this, my emotions were so tied into my job and everything they was doing to me. It was very emotional to me. So I'm seeing Jesus, and I'm still upset, like screaming, like, how could they do this to me, you know? And then he put his hand on, he took my hand from me, and he put his hand on top of my hand, and he looked me right in the eyes. And he said, I am the God of the universe. And everything just went like just a peace. Like when the Bible says, peace be still, you know, it was still. Like this peace came over me, and God let me feel that. Like, it's okay. It's okay. You know, and I try not to cry right now because he's been true to his word. And that's another video. I mean, I can go on and on about how many things have been done to ruin me and see me be destitute and everything that has been done against me. And God has shown me these things. He has shown me these things over and over again. But I'm not making this video as a point to talk about myself only. But I'm shocked, like I said, that this woman gave me confirmation because she's going through this on her job right now. And I've been there. And so anyone else who's going through it, I know how you feel. I know the pain that you feel in your chest when it's tightened, when it's getting tight, your stomach is hurting real bad, you crying, you feel like nobody cares, and people are just like stepping on you and trying to ruin your life. They don't care about how hard you work. They don't care about nothing you do. They just want to destroy you. I have been in that position. I know how you feel. And I'm telling you, God said to me, I am the God of the universe. And he is the God of the universe. And that's why he showed me that vision. And I didn't understand it at first until he reminded me of this dream. He's the God of the universe. And let his light in every place that you're hurting or whatever you're going through. He will take care of you. That was 4 years ago. And God has taken care of me. God has miraculously taken care of me. And I just thank him. I thank all of you that have contributed to my ministry. You know, I didn't even put my PayPal on my account until like late last year. It was late last year. But I have had a ministry. Even when I was working, I had a huge Facebook ministry. I did that for years before I even had a YouTube ministry. And I've been on YouTube for like, I want to say 4 or 5 years. And I never had my PayPal information even up, ever, until late last year. But God miraculously, I've never asked for money. I give God the glory for that. I've done, you know, my count says I've done over 800 videos. But I don't know what you all's count does, because my count shows a lot of videos that were used to make videos. It's hard to explain. But anyway, so my count, the number is probably off by like 100. So I've done hundreds and hundreds of videos. I've never asked for money, and I give God the glory for that. And it's not a prideful thing, because I've had people say that to me. Well, Shauna, you just being prideful. No, God told me don't ask for money. He told me that. Because it was different points in my life when I was thinking that's what I had to do. He said, don't do that. He said, I will take care of you. Don't ask for money. It's okay. And people kept telling me, well, why don't you put up your PayPal? Why don't you put up your PayPal? Why don't you put up your PayPal? So finally, I felt God told me to put up my PayPal, because he said to me that it was people that was trying to help me financially and that it wasn't there, and they just didn't help me. So he told me to put it up, and that was late last year. But for 4 years, God has miraculously taken care of me without me ever asking for any money. All I did was put my trust in him, and he has supplied. And I give him the glory for that. And I thank everyone else involved and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful. But ultimately, all the good in our lives is because of the Lord. And we need to always acknowledge that. And the reason I say that especially is because there are people who are false prophets and things of this nature, false preachers, because they forget where the source is. They forget where the blessings come from, and they start looking at man, and then their messages are tainted. Then, the things that they do are tainted. But if you look to God and you know that God is your source, but you will say whatever God tells you to say with no filter, and you don't care. You don't care what people think, because you know who your source is. And although I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, my source is the Lord. And I give God the glory for that, because he's made that very clear to me. So, God is taking care of me. Despite everything that was done against me, I could make more videos on this. This is personal. It's not something I would have ever wanted to share, but this is not about me. And I thank God for letting me know that this is about those out there that are suffering. And I am once again sharing my personal story with you so that you can get strength, because you need to know that whatever you're going through, God can take care of you. God wants me to share this. I love you all. God bless you forever. He's the God of the universe.
God of wonders beyond our galaxy. You are holy.